Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko, and with me on today's episode is Chiamaka.
Hello viewers.
The month of March is here, and that means that the first quarter of 2018 is going. And we hope that you know what that means. It means that at the end of this month, March 2018, the tax amnesty granted under the 9-month voluntary access and income declaration scheme will expire. It began in July to end on March 31. And so we ask you, have you taken advantage of this window of opportunity? Have you filed under VATs? A few episodes ago, we were speaking about how Mr. Fowler, the executive chairman of the FRS, chairman Joint Tax Board, is a man who cherishes tax advocacy, how he seizes every opportunity to preach the gospel of voluntary tax compliance. And we had two events at which Mr. Fowler mounted the podium to do what he knows how to do very well. But because of time constraints, we were able to share with you only one of those two stories, promising that at a later date, we will share with you the story of the second event, which was the Business Saturday program organized by Province 35 of the Redeemed Christian Church of God in Lagos. We are going to share that story with you today. And just last week, Mr. Fowler hit the road again. This time, he came all the way from Abuja to Lagos to talk to captains of industry and commerce on the voluntary access and income declaration scheme at the February 2018 Members' Day of the Institute of Directors, Nigeria. The program is Tax Matters, and we do promise you an exciting time on today's episode. Welcome once again. The program is Tax Matters. Chiamaka, is your story.
Date was Saturday, 27th January 2018. And the event was Business Saturday program organized by one of the provinces of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. Theme was Economic and Growth Prospects 2018. Mr. Fowler spoke on tax reform, expectations for 2018.
Ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding applause, let's welcome Mr. Babatunde Fowler.
So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk on taxation. But before I go into my presentation, there are one or two things I'd just like to make clear. Only people who have an income or organizations that make a profit pay tax. So when people say taxation is a burden, it is just giving back to society. I was at a conference once, and this speaker started his presentation by simply saying that if the man in Ajegunle does not sleep, the man in Ikoyi equally will not sleep. So it's best that the man who has been blessed, who lives in Ikoyi, pay taxes to help the man in Ajegunle. And simply put, the role of government is to protect lives and property. The role of government is also to help the needy. So taxation is just giving back a little bit to ensure that you can move everyone along. And I found this out myself when I was in LIRS, and we went around to some hospitals in Lagos. And a lot of kids under 5 were dying, infant mortality from malaria. And I asked a simple question: what would it cost to save this child? And the doctor's nurse said between 2,000 to 5,000 naira. But that the parents, because they don't have 2,000 naira, wait until it's too late. And there's some malaria medicine that is even under 1,000 naira. By the time the child comes to hospital, the child is as hot as a kettle. So the issue here is that when you don't pay your tax, you're not mindful that you may be the cause of the death of a child under 5. So forget there's a law. The morality aspect of it, or even the care aspect of it. So when you don't pay your 10,000 naira as tax, but you decide to go out and have a bottle or two of beer, then that means your priorities are wrong. Now, according to the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan for Nigeria 2017-2020, we need to invest about $3 trillion over the next 30 years in infrastructure. Hospitals are required, schools are required, good roads are required. That is the type of infrastructure we're talking about.
Mr. Fowler was sounding there like a pastor.
That's okay. After all, it was in the church.
True talk indeed.
Now, in terms of FIRS, a lot of people don't really understand the significance of the role of taxation at the federal level. They say FIRS, Federal Inland Revenue Service, but that affects everyone because on a monthly basis, all the revenue that we collect is shared between the federal, state, and local governments. So even in the budgets of the state and the local government, depending on how well we do, also affects what they have to spend during the month. In 2017, which was just last year, we were able to collect 99.53% of budget of the federal allocation. And under the other revenue, we were able to collect 63% to make it 82.38% of total revenue budget, which was a growth of about 22% over 2016. So we were able to cross the 4 trillion mark. We've started a nationwide tax audit exercise of 5,000 selected audits. The first 200 that we did, we found out that not one was tax compliant. And that gives you an indication of the work that needs to be done. I mean, it would be nice if you walk into a corporate organization before you do any business with them and ask them, have you paid your taxes? They might be surprised, but we'll get to that point whereby if you expect a conducive environment for business, you expect a conducive environment to live, an increased standard of living, everyone has to pay their taxes.
Mr. Fowler went on to talk about the initiatives adopted by the service to improve revenue.
Now, the initiatives that we've adopted to improve revenue are mainly system-based. In terms of technology, we have what we call 6 solutions, meaning that you can perform all tax administration requirements without even seeing us.
On the federal government tax amnesty program of 2016 and the current one, VAT.
We granted an amnesty program in 2016 for corporate organizations. Now, that initial amnesty waived penalty and interest for 3 years. In 45 days, 2,700 companies applied. They paid 27 billion and paid the balance of about 50 billion over the next 6 to 9 months. Also, the Voluntary Asset and Income Declaration Scheme, which is the second tax initiative, now borders on everyone, individuals, corporate organizations, especially people that have investments abroad. I can assure you that for Nigerians that have got investments abroad in England, America, Europe, wherever, if they do not pay their taxes, those properties will be taken immediately. They're paying taxes abroad. The question is, why would they not pay taxes at home? So we have to look at it. You see, anyone who doesn't pay taxes where they reside at home is not thinking about the best interest of you and I. Now, the first thing that we did was to exchange tax information with all revenue agencies in Nigeria. Every state has a revenue agency, like the LIRS in Lagos, Kwara State Internal Revenue Service. We took the names of all the taxpayers and we gave them the names of all our own taxpayers. So nationwide, At least for those who are registered, we have all that information. And with certain agreements, the federal government was able to get information on Nigerians that own properties and businesses abroad. I can just tell you a few, because a few were put in the papers. The UAE, Great Britain, and some other places that Nigerians visit a lot. So all that information is there. And that's why I'll recommend, if you don't buy the aspect of pay your tax because it's the right thing to do, or you don't buy the idea of pay your tax because it's trying to show love to your neighbor, then maybe the third option, that you already have the information, might ginger you to pay your taxes. Because sooner or later, we will come for you.
Mr. Wole Obayomi, a tax consultant, took the audience through the tax architecture in Nigeria.
So taxes in Nigeria, corporate income tax, that applies to companies, and the rate is 30% of your taxable profits. Personal income tax or pay tax, that applies to entrepreneurs, self-employed people, and also people in employment. Value-added tax, which you all should be familiar because you pay it on consumption, which is 5%. Personal income tax rate is between 7% and 24%, depending on your income band. However, by the time you utilize your consolidated relief allowance, your effective tax rate might just be about 20% for the very high income earners. Then we have withholding tax, which is an advanced tax, and is payable on qualifying transactions. And the rate is between 5% and 10%, depending on the transaction. And then there's tertiary education tax, which is paid by companies at the rate of 2% on their accessible profits. And then there's the Nigerian Technology Development Authority levy of 1%, which is paid by companies in the telecom sector and the financial services sector, and that is 1% of profit before tax. There's capital gains tax, which is 10% of the gains that you make when you dispose of an asset.
That was a treatise, and it deserves full treatment like that of Mr. Fowler. So it will come to you very soon on Tax Matters as a standalone.
There was also a panel discussion moderated by Dr. Ayo Teriba.
If the country has reduced income, would a continued crackdown on tax not result in more hardship for the populace? The way I would modify it is that in a post-recession economy, you did see that what gets taxed is either people's income or profits. Now we've just come out of a recession. How did incomes fare during the recession and in the aftermath of the recession? How did profits fare during the recession and in the aftermath of a recession? So how hopeful are we that we will get enhanced revenue from taxation, given that both incomes and profits are likely to currently be fairly battered, and that a post-recession economic environment in most other countries will be an environment in which the government is saying more about how to stimulate the economy?
Thank you very much. Your first question basically bordered on the impact taxation will have on the people or a country that's just out of a recession. Nigeria is different from most other developing and developed countries. And I'll give you two examples. If you cross just over to Ghana, you'll find out that the level of tax compliance is much higher than Nigeria. So the people that we're focusing on, first of all, are those who are not even within the tax net, those who are not even paying any taxes. Like I said, in 1 year, we added about 800,000 taxpayers who had not paid 1 naira of tax. Our law says that if you're going to have a federal government contract or even a state contract, one of the conditions is that you must have a tax clearance. We found out that at the federal, state level, people are executing contracts, not not even having a tax ID, talk less of paying tax. And these are organizations that are benefiting from the system, but not paying any tax. So when it comes to those taxpayers who have shown lower profits, or even taxpayers who are operating at the same level, we also give them the opportunity to make instrumental payments of their tax arrears. It's something we introduced so that if you do have a tax bill and you can't pay because you've reinvested the money, we'll let you pay instrumentally. Under VADES, the condition that you're given up to 36 months, 3 years, to pay any outstanding, subject to the approval of the taxing agency. So the recession basically would not affect our projections. And then also we've got to look at the role of government. Government is the only organization that will spend 1 billion naira to build a road, or spend 2 or 3 billion naira to build schools. Now, in giving out those contracts, they create employment. They create employment for the people who are going to lay the blocks. They create employment for the consultants, the architecture, design. They create employment for the quantity surveyor. They create employment for even mama puts, because when they're building on site, you have a small woman selling food. So it has a multiplier effect. So usually to come out of a recession, what you need is government spending. And for government to spend, you need revenue from tax. So coming out of this recession and making sure that the economy is reinflated, you need additional spending.
Mr. Fowler was on song there.
Oh yes, he was on top of his game.
If you think that was good, you need to listen to Mr. Fowler addressing captains of industry and commerce at the February 2018 meeting of the Institute of Directors, Nigeria.
Now, the important things we should know about VADES from a standpoint of view of money is that between July and December, all penalties and interest were waived. But considering I'm discussing this topic in the month of February, that means that some of us are latecomers to this new scheme. Now, between January and March 31st, only the penalty will be waived. And at the end of March 31st, 2018, interest and penalty will be charged, and it will also be liable for prosecution, where you have been found to be guilty of tax evasion. Now, what does it take to come under VADES? It's very simple. It's called voluntarily. That means that you can assess yourself, you can put together your records, show how much income you have generated over the 6-year period, and simply apply a simple rule. As an individual, there are rates and calculations that you go by. But if I was going to give you a ballpark figure, you will not pay effectively more than 20% of your total revenue. And you also have the opportunity, in discussion with your relevant state tax authority, to pay that tax over a period of 3 years. For the corporate organizations, it's a bit more simple, 30%. Look at your investments where you earn income abroad, even in Ghana, across the border, and you've not been filing. Fill a simple form, which I believe is in your packs. Nobody's going to ask questions, and come in and discuss payment terms over a maximum period equally of 3 years. And at the end of that exercise, you get a certificate of declaration.
Impressive. It is talk like this that is winning the FRS and Mr. Fowler laurels all over the place.
Yes, just the other week, the FIRS, under the able leadership of Mr. Fowler, was awarded the Outstanding Federal Agency of the Year 2017 by the Independent newspaper. In all, 27 awards were presented to outstanding public officials, governors and deputy governors, legislators, captains of industry and commerce, outstanding companies, public sector organizations, entertainers, and the Ooni of Ife, His Royal Majesty Enito Ogunwusi. Mr. Fowler was represented at the event by Mr. ITT Jimo, who was accompanied by a retinue of top FIRS officials.
On behalf of Independence, it's a great pleasure to give you this award.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. We would like to thank the Independence newspapers for this award. And we also want to dedicate this award to the tax-paying public that assisted us in generating 4.03 trillion in 2017. Thank you and God bless.
Tax Matters spoke to Mr. Jimo on what the award means to the FIRS.
This award means a lot to FRS because I will tell you it's a part of service delivery to FRS, because service delivery hands us more revenue. It's only when you have service delivery and people will be ready to pay their taxes as at when due. I want to thank the independent newspapers for recognizing the effort of FRS in generating revenue for the Federation. We don't only generate for federal government, we generate for the Federation, at least we generate for the states and for the local government. Whatever revenue is being generated by FRS is being shared by the 3 tiers of government. So whatever we do in FRS trickle down to everybody on the street. Our revenue so far has increased from 3.3 trillion in 2016 to 4.03 trillion in 2017. This will assist the government in creation of infrastructure. There will be more infrastructure, there will be more drugs in the hospitals, there will be more roads, there will be good life to people.
So what would you say earned FIRS this award?
Really, we've developed and deployed 6 e-service platform for the use of the taxpayers. What we have now is such that you can stay within the confines of your offices, your homes, and file your returns, make your payments, collect your receipts, apply for your tax clearance certificate, get your tax clearance online, do stamp duty online. We have all 6 e-services that has assisted us in generating more revenue. And I can assure you by 2018, we're going to surpass what we did in 2017. We've dedicated this award to the tax-paying public of Nigeria, because without you paying your taxes, we won't be in business. So we want to appreciate all the taxpayers in Nigeria, the 17 million taxpayers we have on our database, for doing this great honor to FRS, and we'll continue to serve them better.
Big congratulations to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. A week after, on Friday, the 23rd of February 2018, Mr. Fowler himself was awarded the Silverbird Public Servant of the Year 2017 at the Silverbird Award. It was a grand occasion that attracted the creme de la creme in the Nigerian public and private sectors. Again, Mr. ITT Jimo received the Silverbird Award on behalf of Mr. Fowler.
On behalf of Silverbird, I want to present the award of the Public Servant of the Year to the Chairman FIRS, Chief Babatunde Fowler, for his exemplary leadership and digitalizing the FIRS. Congratulations.
We are the best because of the support of our stakeholders. You, the stakeholders, made this happen. And we wish to dedicate this award to the tax-paying public of Nigeria that have assisted us in generating 4.03 trillion in 2017. We'll continue to do it. Thank you all.
Once again, we wish the FIRS and Mr. Fowler greater successes in the months and years ahead. We want to most sincerely thank you for finding time to watch today's episode of Tax Matters. We hope that you will join us on this same platform, same day of the week, same time of the day next week, it will be time for a fresh episode of Tax Matters. From Chiamaka,
Bye for now.
have a great week ahead.